Dog, what's happening, fam? Kiva, what's up, cuz? Appreciate it, kid. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Hook coming at you again with another episode of Get Hooked. It's been a couple weeks since I tuned in, had some family things going on, but I'm glad to be back, and I'm really excited about today's topic, or tonight's topic rather. It's something that I posted earlier this week, and it got a lot of traction throughout the week. A lot of people have commented already, had some really good comment, a lot of great dialogue, a lot of great commentary, and I'm really excited to see exactly how this is going to turn out. So make sure you like the post, make sure you share it, and I think it's a really interesting topic, and there are a lot of different perspectives, and I want to hear from as many people as possible. As you can see, I'm sporting the black and gold, representing the hometown, Allendale. If you're looking for a shirt, holler at my little cousin Jamal Pee Wee Humans, and I won't charge you for that plug, little cuz, so you know that one's on the house. All right, so today's topic is to spank or not to spank, and it's really geared towards the discipline that should be allowed by a step-parent, a stepfather, stepmother, whoever the case may be. And there were a lot of different perspectives on it. As a matter of fact, I have a few comments from some people with some conversations I've had earlier in the week. Some of them are quite interesting. Some are very hilarious, and some of them are keep your expletive hands to yourself, meaning don't touch my kid. If I'm raising you, I'll beat that ass. If I can feed you like my own, I can beat that ass like my own. Open my refrigerator and let my cold air out and see what happens. Spank my kid without permission, and I'll be a great human being by providing you with a free funeral. Before you put your hands on mine, give me a courtesy call, then proceed to whip that ass. Alright, so as you can see, there are quite a few different perspectives, quite a few different opinions, and I'll go ahead and put mine out there now. And I may be a little biased because I have a little girl, I have a daughter, and I'm really not cool with some other guy doing to my daughter what I don't even do. It's been quite a while since I've even spanked my daughter. I give her a little pop here and there. I'm a stern disciplinarian, but I just don't believe in. I know that the way I'm a Generation Xer, so the way I was raised was, any little small thing we did, we got our asses whooped. But I think there are a lot of different other forms of discipline. I don't necessarily think that a belt, or in my case, what my mom did to me, drop cord, shoes, broomsticks, fist, open palm, I endured all that. And I think some people are under the impression that the more physical the discipline is, that somehow that makes you a better person growing up. And that's not necessarily the case. I got a lot of whippings growing up, but I was never a bad kid. Probably the worst thing I ever did was, and my homeboy over here looking like, nigga, you lying. Probably the worst thing I ever did was, break bottles in the middle of the road or something like that. But it doesn't matter what I did. I could have left the door open. My mom said I'm running up the electric bill. Could have left my racetrack plugged into the electric outlet, and I get beat for that. And these kids nowadays, they're doing a heck of a lot, more things. But it didn't, in my opinion, even if she had not done those things to me, I would have turned out fine anyway. I don't think that physical discipline is necessarily an answer in some cases. But again, to each their own. But I really want to hear from you guys, and we got quite a few comments coming out already. JP, what's going on, bro? All right, so all right, Chubb says, I wonder who said that about the cold air in the fridge. Talking to Kanye's. I mean, my mom said the exact same thing, though. D. Nicole says, boy, don't tell Blossom business. Blossom already know how I get down. You know what I mean? So there are no holds barred with my family at all. And I mean, that's what the thing is with our parents. They didn't know any other way except to use physical discipline. And I mean, and the thing is, if that works for you, then that's okay. But I guess more so, it's now, how do you feel about a step parent, or someone who had absolutely nothing to do with bringing the child into the world, putting their hands on your child. And like I said before, I'm completely against it. I don't see myself ever being okay with another man putting their hands on my daughter. I just don't see it. Would I feel differently if I had a son? I have no idea, but that's kind of how I feel about it. That's my take on it. But again, that's my opinion. But more so, I want to hear from you guys. I really want to know how you guys feel, and let me know how, if you are in that situation right now. If you're in a step parent situation, let me know how you guys handle it. Let me know how the non-custodial biological parent feels about it. So I really want to hear from you guys. So, Hef, how would you feel in that situation?
So I've been in that situation to an extent, as far as having to discipline, or actually being told to discipline. As far as it being a little guy, a little man, or whatever, and being told not to just let him run over you. So it becomes a fine line as far as, okay, I'm trying to be here and do and like you said, take care of you, and I'm out here putting food in another man's child's mouth and doing what I can, and they're not doing. And the family has your back as far as, hey, do what you got to do. So that's the situation I was kind of in. Did I want to? Not at all. I would always revert it back to the mother, but at the same time, it comes to a point where you look at it like, what happens when this person gets older, and they're going to try you.
Right.
So you have to set that line in the dirt early. You don't have to go kill him. You don't have to go Adrian Peterson.
Right.
But you have to let it be known that even though I'm not your father, I'm still a man, or I'm still a woman if it's whoever. So it's just a level that you take it to. That's my belief. But
you got to go ahead though, right? I mean, you were they gave you to go ahead and do that. Yeah,
I wasn't like out there just like Blossom.
Right. Right.
But I was, I had to get that go ahead, and I still didn't feel comfortable with it. But But I mean.
Now, I mean, the thing of it is though, like you were, I think in your situation, you said that the dad wasn't terrible. He wasn't really active. He wasn't really, a fixture in the kid's life. That makes the world of difference. But more so, I'm referring to like with many dads I know, they may not be with the mom anymore, but they're still active in the child's life. But like the child may be living with you as a step parent. The child may be living with you, but the biological dad may still be active. They may be on child support. They may, or even if they're not on child support, they're still active. They're still helping raise the child. It's when you're not active in the child's life, you really don't have a whole heck of a lot to say so. But when you are, it's kind of like, the child may be living with you, but I think that there still are boundaries that need to be laid out.
I think I know Chubb, and I know we I don't want to skip anyone, but like Chubb said, he doesn't see what's so hard about wanting to speak with the other parent first. That's sometimes easier said than done. Sometimes in some situations they keep the new away from the old because the old and the new are all in water. So I agree with Chubb though that if it can be something that is a healthy conversation, then you can get the take right there.
Right.
Like, hey, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Daryl, like, if it's that type of relationship where you can talk to him. So
right.
I agree as far as it should be that attempt to talk.
Right.
And really get the other person's side of it.
Exactly. And the maturity level definitely has to be there. I know with my daughter, you know, her mom and her significant other, they're not married, but they have a really good relationship. And he's a really good guy, a really stand up guy. We you know, and my daughter adores him, and I have no problem with him whatsoever. He and I never had a conversation, but me and her mom had a conversation. And she asked me how I felt about it, and I told her, no, I don't think that needs to be the case. And you know, and the same with me. Like I'm not gonna let, you know, whomever I'm with put their hands on my daughter. That's kind of how I feel about it, because that's her mom's request. But I mean, we came to that decision, so we left him out of the equation. We're gonna leave her out of the equation. It's more so gonna be between, you know, us two biological parents. All right, so. All right, so Alvin says stepdads could whoop their kids, not mine though. All right, so go contradictory ass. All right, so basically, you know, just saying stepdad, she'll whip the kids, but apparently you wouldn't be okay with them. Just imagine, you know, heaven forbid you and Stephanie get a divorce. Now you got, you know, Mr. Joe over here who whooping Arian ass. I'm sure you wouldn't feel good about that, right? All right, so Miko says she's with me. Smart choice. If my child is doing something that warrants a spanking, let their father do it. The step-parent better not put their hand on my child. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Especially, and again, I know that there are a lot of step-parents out there, a lot of great step-parents who are, for all intents and purposes, taking the place of the bio-parent because they're absent for whatever reason. The fact remains is, you know, if it's that situation, they're really your kid at that point. And so there really isn't a third party to really, you know, sway you one way or the other. But the fact is like, you know, if the biological parent, non-custodial parent is still active, it may cause some issues. All right, so Disha says, how much time do you have to put into a relationship to spank or not to spank? I think that's a really good question, you know, and, you know, are you just dating? Are you boyfriend, girlfriend? Are you engaged? Are you married? You know, I think, you know, because you can't, like, if you have a custodial parent who has a new boyfriend, new girlfriend every 6 months, obviously you don't want a new dude whooping your kid every 6 months. And really, that's kind of where I draw the line. I think if there's not like a commitment there, like I'm not gonna be okay with somebody who may not even be around for long or be around forever putting their hands on my daughter. Discipline is one thing. I mean, obviously, you know, if she's doing something she shouldn't be doing, go ahead and discipline her ass, you know? I mean, take away her iPad, take away her phone, send her to bed, whatever, do it, whatever you gotta do. But in terms of physically putting your hands on her, I'm probably never gonna be okay with that.
You almost, your comment is almost like Nakia. Almost like Kia's.
Right.
As far as the, what she said about the, not just boyfriend, girlfriend.
Right, absolutely.
So I feel that.
Absolutely. And yeah, and you bring up a good point, Harold. They said, Nakia said, if they're helping raise the child and an actual step parent, not just a boyfriend, girlfriend, then yeah, no problem. And I'm with that, you know. And you know, again, because if you're married and you're in this long-term relationship, I expect you to discipline, because at that point we're jointly raising, you know, the kids. So, but again, physical discipline is kind of where I draw the line. All right. While Lita says, I don't believe physical pain is an effective discipline tool. I mean, she's an educator, so you know she's gonna go there. There are many ways to correct problem behavior, and step parents should use those methods or get permission from both parents. Hitting is overrated. And Walida, I'm with you on that 110%. I can't believe there's actually something that you and I actually agree on. That's very rare. But I think that physical discipline is overrated. I hear this saying all the time. What is it? Spare the rod, spoil the child. Personally, I don't think that whippings are always 110% necessary. In every situation is going to be different. I know a lot of kids, a lot of cats I grew up with. They were physically disciplined. They turned out just fine. A lot of others, they were physically disciplined and they turned out, not so well. So I think the discipline is needed, but I think that the beatings and the physical, I'm not going to say brutality. It can't get to that point, but I don't think the whole physical nature of anything is necessarily warranted. All right, Lachelle says, what if the child is just bad as hell and needs an ass cutting? That's where the biological parent comes in my opinion. And again, it's going to be that communication. If I give you to go ahead, to physically discipline my child, then absolutely it's okay. But I think the conversation needs to be had first. You shouldn't be touching my child if I'm an active fixture in their life, just all willy-nilly. You need to let me know, or let the biological, or let the custodial parent know, what's going on and what needs to happen. With me personally, when I do get married, if I'm a step parent in that situation, like, I'm not gonna feel comfortable putting my hands on someone else's child. I'm gonna discipline. Now, if I get to go ahead, that's one thing. But the thing with me though is, like, that's my last resort. If I have to resort to physically discipline a child, that I've reached my limit at that point.
I think the key thing that you're saying, you don't see another person doing it because you don't really see yourself doing it. Right. So you definitely wouldn't. It can't ride with somebody else doing it if I wouldn't do it myself.
Right. Absolutely.
So
absolutely, because like, I'm not and again, I'm a disciplinarian when it comes to my daughter, but like I just, like, and it's probably because she's a little girl, I can't bring myself to, just touch her, just put my hands on her just because. And I can't see allowing or being okay with another man doing something that I'm not even doing myself. And that's kind of where I draw the line. If I'm not an active participant in her life, I completely get that. But, she may not live with me, but she's mine. And physical discipline, or any discipline, comes from a place of love. It doesn't come just from wanting to, show them who's boss, or because they live with you, because they're eating your food, because you're paying the bills. If you were, the fact is, if you weren't, in a relationship with the custodial parent, you wouldn't be in her life anyway. You wouldn't be in the child's life anyway. So you're only doing that out of your commitment to, her mom or dad, or whatever the case may be. If y'all break up, then the responsibility is gonna fall back on me and the mom anyway. So again, I don't see allowing somebody that's come in and do what they feel they need to do. All right. Arisha says, I have no interest in spanking someone else's kid, even my nieces and nephews. I feel like I can discipline in other ways until the parents can handle it. And again, and that's where I'm at as well. There's so many other ways you can discipline. I know old school, it was always, hey, we gonna beat them, we gonna, because I grew up in the era where anybody in the neighborhood could whoop you. Like, it didn't have it didn't have to be a relative or family member or anybody. It can be the neighbor or whoever. If they saw me out there doing something I shouldn't have been doing, they would whoop my ass. B, go tell my mom. C, when I got home, I get another ass whooping. So it's like, double trouble. But the fact is, it's like, and I keep going back to this. With me, it wasn't necessary because I was a relatively good kid. I got into mischief like other kids, but I didn't require all that. It's like I said, when I got beaten, it was like for little trivial stuff. I mean, even when I got older in high school, the worst thing I did was kiss a girl in the hallway. All right, I ain't got my ass whooped for it, but that's like I did.
No, I'm just saying, as far as that's the worst.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's a show for another day. I was a good kid. Now some of my cousins, I ain't calling no names, Quincy. You know, they they required a little bit more, a little bit more discipline. But you know, again, it's a lot of the things that we went through weren't even necessary. All right, Tim says sometimes talking is not enough. Discipline has to start early, though. Right, you're right. Sometimes talking isn't enough, but again, you can talk to them. You know, you can take away things they enjoy. There's so many other ways you can discipline somebody besides physically, you know, putting your hands on them. And again, I'm not saying don't physically discipline your child. I don't want anybody to think that. My whole point is, should the step parent, you know, be allowed to actually do that? All right, while Lita's chiming in again. There's no such thing as a bad kid, just a collection of learned unacceptable behaviors. Oftentimes we need to look at us first when the kid isn't behaving appropriately. And I don't know many dads who would beat his own little girl. Why would he want to do so with someone else's? Right. And and that goes back to what me and Harold was saying, Walita. You know, I can't see allowing somebody to do something to my kid that I don't even do. And you're right. You know, kids act out for a variety of different reasons. I don't think anybody is inherently bad, but there could be a lot of things going on within the home. Maybe the parents are going through a divorce. Maybe the kid is feeling neglected. But I think that's where I'm a communicator. Like I believe in talking things out. I don't like to assume anything. So even with like Zoe is 7 years old, soon to be 8, and we have conversations like she's my best friend. You know, and I'll if something happens at school, before I punish her, I find out I find out what went on, what happened, and I find out, and kids are gonna. She talks so much, it's like I'm gonna find out if she's if she's the root cause of it or not. And if I feel honestly that she did something she shouldn't have done, I call her on it. I let her know, hey, this is what you did. This is why I'm punishing you, and this is something you shouldn't do again. So she knows that, and I don't have to physically touch her to do that. So there's no way in hell I'm going to allow another guy, because he's having a bad day, to put his hands on her. Priscilla, I don't spank other people's kids, and especially not my own. Spankings work. It's old school, so I won't knock it. But there are so many other ways to discipline a kid. Get creative. When my nephews show out, they do push-ups. I expect other people not to hit my child. A family member popped my kid when he was 1 year old, and I freaking lost it. And set expectations so that the shit never happened again. Right, and it's about setting those expectations. If you don't want somebody, physically putting their hands on your kid, let them know.
I know somebody that does the push-up thing.
Yeah, and the push-up thing. I mean, it's unorthodox, but it's still a method of discipline. So there's so many other ways to get the kids' attention so that they know that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. All right, got someone else to agree with me. Renee, thank you, welcome. But as soon as the child starts acting up or disrespecting the step parent, the custodial parent has to immediately address that. Absolutely, disrespect should never be allowed. There's nothing. There's nothing wrong with calling the child out on that. So obviously, just because you don't physically discipline somebody doesn't mean that they're going to run over you. You still have to stand up. There's still going to be situations where you have to treat the child like their own without physically touching them. All right, Kendall, you already know how I feel. Yeah, Kendall and I had some dialogue throughout the week. Some things we agreed on. Probably 87.3% of the things we didn't agree on. All right. If we are married and I have the responsibility of raising the child, I will discipline them. Some parents are not in the child's life, and you may be the only one. And Kendall, I agree with that. We agree on. That's the other 12% that we actually did agree on. But the fact is like if the non-custodial parent is not active in a child's life, then you are filling that role. So you should treat them accordingly.
That was more my situation.
And the thing is, though, like another thing you said, Kendall, you said that you will discipline them, and and I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think it's the method of whatever method of discipline you actually use. Like you don't have to. It's this misconception that like a lot of things we're dealing with millennials now, and they are completely different than the way we were. You know, we come from an era where you do as you're told. You know, you don't do as I say, don't do as I do as I say. You know, but now these kids nowadays, they're they're just different. Period. You know, they're a lot more free spirited, free natured, and you know they don't have a lot of the responsibility that we had growing up. But and the form of discipline, sometimes if you discipline a kid too much physically, they may end up resenting you for that. You know, there's so many other ways you can discipline a child than actually putting your hands on them. All right, JB. When the couple sets the relationship expectations, this should be a part of the conversation. Bottom line, you have to communicate. I'm not interested in a bestie. Absolutely. You have to have a good relationship with your child, but you don't have to be their best friend. You know, like I call my mom my best friend simply because I can tell her anything, we can talk about it. But we always drew that line. We always I'm comfortable talking to her. She never made me feel like I couldn't talk to her. But if there was something that she needed to address, she would do that. And she wouldn't worry about if I was mad with her. And I guess that's where I get my nonchalant attitude from. She doesn't care if you like her or love her or whatever the case may be. But she just simply, that's kind of how she operates. All right, and again, guys, make sure that you're liking the post. Make sure that you're sharing it, because I really want to hear from everybody. I really want to hear how everyone feels about the whole discipline thing. Because the fact still remains is that the discipline is indeed needed. That's the only way you're going to make sure that you raise you want to raise your kids right. You want to make sure that they become productive members of society. So discipline is definitely needed. But the fact is, like the whole physical discipline thing, personally, and this is my own personal feeling, I think it's a bit overrated. A lot of the comments I got throughout the week were more so like, well, I'm paying the bills, they're living under my roof. Just because you're doing those things, it doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want to do to the kid. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the only reason that you're even taking care of that kid is because you love, their parent. Without the parent, there wouldn't be a bond or a relationship between you and the kid. All right, so Tim asked, did you happen to see a video of the kid beating her mom up on the bus? So how do you deal with that? Wow. Well, you whoop her ass. I mean, she want to physically. I think that the punishment should fit the crime. That's kind of where I am with it. Do I think that you need to whoop somebody's ass for breaking a bottle glass in the middle of the road, or even talking back? I mean, because sometimes we get snippy attitudes. But I mean, when it comes to that extreme, when they're physically assaulting somebody else, at that point, it's self-defense. And not just that, but I mean, if my daughter ever physically assaults somebody, then, I need her to understand the ramifications. And I think that the legal punishment is going to be enough for her. But that behavior, it stemmed from somewhere. So if she's beating her mom up on the bus, like, how much did her mom allow? Did her mom discipline her at all? I'm sure it's not just, you can't with 100% guarantee say that if her mom had physically discipline her, that she wouldn't have done the same thing. Because I've seen parents and kids get into actual fist fights. So again, discipline is not the know-all, end-all, but I think that there are it's about discipline, period. And again, I'm not knocking discipline. I'm not saying that kids, shouldn't be disciplined. But the fact remains is that, I think it's the method of discipline that needs to be administered. And again, just like in the legal system, I think that, when someone's punished, the punishment should indeed fit the crime. Yeah, and Priscilla, we agree on that. You said that her mom messed up a long time ago. When it gets to the point where a kid is, firing up at the mom or physically attacking the mom, that didn't just happen on a whim. That is that's a learned behavior. Her mom allowed that to happen. Yeah, so Chubb says, now if you see my children jumping on their mom, anybody on God's green earth have permission to fuck them up? Absolutely. Absolutely, and again, that goes back to the whole punishment fits the crime scenario. If there's, if they're, physically really, if they're physically assaulting any adult, parent, uncle, neighbor, whoever, I think that's where the line should actually be drawn. It's parenting. It's tough. It's really tough. I know my daughter's only 7 years old. There are times when I just want to like grab her sometimes and just shake the, it's never anything big. And I think that we as parents also, we're going to need to control that anger as well. We need to control that rage. Everything doesn't require ass whooping. And I think that's kind of how we were raised, because I vividly remember, one time when I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. We lived in a trailer, and we had an external power source. And following up my cousin Quincy, we went there and we took turns like switching the power on and off, on and off, on and off. I was the last person to go, and lo and behold, I switched it off. My mom got home and none of the power was on. She was like, what happened? I knew I paid the bill. She went outside and the box was open, and she was like, what did y'all do? So I won't say that I snitched, but I wasn't going down by myself. So I told her what happened. She walked me down the road and she was like, y'all gonna get your asses whooped tonight, like just off the bat. And I never forget, like they brought all this in there, and my granddad had like a set of double belts, and they beat come to think of it, they beat me, they beat Freight, they beat Quincy. I don't know how long I got out of that, because he was there with us. Probably because he was light skinned, I don't know. But somehow or another he got out of that one. But I mean, I never touched the box again, but I don't think that, getting beat, it actually warranted that, you know what I mean? And it's like every single time she beat me, though, it's like she go buy me something because she knew she felt bad about it.
So I got a monkey wrench.
Okay.
You fell in love, you got married, you got a stepson. Stepson hasn't been taught right from wrong. He hit Zoe.
He did what?
He hit Zoe. Do you take his iPad?
Do I take his iPad?
Or do you ask his mom to discipline?
You mean before or after I suplex him? Alright, so that if he hits her, like we're gonna have a serious conversation. We're gonna have a serious talk. But I'll be cautious from that point on. Because I think that when it comes to a point where the kids are getting physical with each other, I think that's kind of where I draw the line. But I'll be extremely cautious from that point on. And I put his mom on notice, I put his dad on notice, and I let them know, hey, if this happens again, I'm just gonna have to take matters in my own hands. Alright, so JB says, like anything else, you have to communicate the expectations up front. You're right, everything doesn't require spanking, but then again, we have daughters. Yeah, and that's kind of where I am with it, because I may be a little biased in the area, but like I just for the life of me can't see allowing another man to lay hands on Zoe. I just can't see it. It's probably because she's a little girl. Again, like I said earlier, if I had a son, maybe I feel differently, but I just can't see it, and it's probably more so because I don't even do it myself. All right, so Tina says that apparently her child's stepmom left a fingernail mark on the son's arm, and she ended up with an order from the court. Absolutely, it's simply because and Tina and you can give me as much detail or as little detail as possible. But did you and the stepmom ever have a conversation? Did you ever talk about what happens if your son acts out or does something that she doesn't necessarily agree with? Was that conversation had from the actual beginning? Or was this like a first time incident, or exactly how does that work? I mean, do they have a good relationship? Do you and her have a good relationship? So there are a lot of factors there are a lot of things that go into that. But yeah, if I Zoe comes back and she has marks on her body, and I find out that it was done from somebody other than her mom or myself, I'm not gonna feel good about that. I'm not gonna feel good about that at all. And again, I can't help but reiterate, there's so many other things we can do. There's so many other avenues we can take instead of, physically, accosting, a minor. Hey, Aiden.
That was funny.
One of the other things that was discussed on the thread from earlier this week, a lot of people were saying that it was a small percentage of people were saying that it's not okay for the step parent to do that, but the vast majority of them saying that that they were okay with it. But I ask you, you say that you would do this and you would do that, but what if it's your child? What if it's your child, the one that's being physically assaulted? I find it hard to believe that you're gonna be okay with somebody else inflicting bodily harm upon your child. And you can say what you want. I'm not saying that administering spankings or love taps or whatever, like it's child abuse. But I mean, shit does hurt. I mean, any one of us who have been given a whipping or who've actually gone through that, we know that it's certainly not a good feeling. So I find it kind of hard to believe that you're going to be okay with your child coming to you and telling you that, hey, he did this to me, she did that to me, and you're going to be okay with it. But I think that's where that whole communication thing really comes into play. You really want to be able to talk about these things. You really want to make sure that the expectations, like someone said earlier, you really want to make sure that you properly set the expectations that this is what's acceptable, this is what's not acceptable. And I think ego plays a big part of it, because a lot of comments from early in the week were saying, well, I don't need permission, or I don't need you to tell me what I need to do. The fact is, if the non-custodial parent is active in that child's life, then whether, I don't care whose roof they're living under, they have the right to say what their expectations are. Now, whether or not you adhere to those expectations, that's a story for another day. But I think that the conversation needs to be had, and I also think that there's definitely a decision that needs to be made in terms of, okay, if this happens, this is what my expectations are, this is what I expect you to do.
Thank you for definitely conversation in the beginning. I think if you won't do to yours, don't do to another.
Right. And I think and piggybacking on what Hef just said, it's my biggest concern would be, are you treating my child fairly? If you have your own child in the home and my child is there, the same thing that you do for your child, are you doing for mine? Or are you more harsh towards my child simply because they're not yours? So there are a lot of underlying factors, and that's where that whole communication thing comes into play as well. Because you can be a step parent, you can care about the child, you can love the child, but the fact is, you would never love that child more than their biological parent does. It doesn't matter. You may care about them, but the love that that I have for Zoe, there's no way that a step parent can come in and say or feel or feel for her the same way I do. Because again, discipline comes from a place of love, and you would never love my child more than I do. So if Aiden had a stepdad, and Aiden came to
I
you,
hope he paying bills.
say what?
I hope he paying the bills.
She came to you.
Let's start there.
She came to
What
you.
kind of bills are you paying? If
Right.
All right.
If he said, hey, well, you know what? If she came to you and said, hey, Mr. Whoever, beat me today, what's going to be your immediate reaction?
If she says what? Say again.
If she says that her stepdad put his hands on her, what's going to be your reaction?
Well, first question would be why.
Okay.
And how.
Why and how?
And then I'd probably go to the closet.
Why?
So,
and
I'm not saying you're wrong. So I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm just, But I do think it's a big thing, and I forgot who made the comment that if the person isn't around, it is different. Like if I wasn't the type, if you aren't the type that's in their life, then it's a little different about what the next person has to do or has to work with. But you're a reasonable person. You're you know what I'm saying. So they can come to you. Like it doesn't have to even just be through women. It could be like, hey man, I want to talk to you man to man. Nothing's happened yet, but I just want to let you know and get your stand on this, and even down to the same way you're talking to everybody here. You would entertain a conversation. Nothing's going on.
Right.
So you would entertain that conversation, and it would be better for you to entertain it now, and it would be better for me to entertain it now before it comes to a point after. And I'm just reacting. So I would rather let it be something that we discuss before I'm reacting to the situation.
Right, absolutely. And I agree 110%, because after it happens, it's kind of too late at that point. But the thing is, though, it's like, you have the conversation before it even happens. You lay down the expectations, and now you have a reference point. You have something to refer back to. Okay, this is how I need to handle this. But if you've never had that conversation before, you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get. All right, so Tina says, the conversation was, bitch, I will kill you. No, we did not have any conversation, but they moved fast with their relationship. So we never had a chance before she was living in the house. My son's stepmom, I can't stand, she is evil. I love my daughter's stepmom, she is really great, and I feel she cares about my baby. All right, and I think, and thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. I know sometimes it can be difficult to, air your dirty laundry and put your personal stance on it. So I appreciate the comment, Tina. And and again, that goes back to what we said before. It's the whole communication thing. You got to talk about it, because you guys never had the conversation before. And again, like with me, I'm not gonna feel comfortable putting my hands on your child. Like that just would not be me. I'm gonna have a conversation with my significant other, who I live with, the biological parent, and then I would expect, obviously she'll set her expectations with me, but then I also fully expect her to have a conversation with the child's biological parent as well, and to find out, or to lay down the law and see exactly how they want things to go going forward. But there is no right or wrong answer here. It's really about avoiding the drama that can come, because when it comes to kids, everybody loves a kid. Nobody's gonna love a kid like you do, and I don't care if it's a bully on the playground. I don't care if it's another adult. I don't care if it's her mom. But the fact is, if someone hurts my baby, they hurt me, and that's really where I'm coming from. And a lot of my friends and family, they have kids, and there's so many varying opinions there. But there's so many variables that need to be that really need to be considered as well. And again, one of the comments from the other day was. Spank my child without permission, and I'll be a great human being and provide you with a free funeral. The operative word there being permission. And I think a lot of people, a lot of adults tend to take offense to that word, because all they hear is permission. Like, okay, well, you're not gonna tell me what I can do or can't do. But I mean, it's permission. It's a play on words, but I get where the person who made the comment. I completely get where they're coming from. And we haven't had that conversation before. And my child comes to me and tells me that you put your hands on her, then we're going to have a problem, simply because your first step should have been to letting her mom know or letting me know. All right, guys, and again, make sure that you're liking the post. Make sure that you share it as well. We've got a lot of good commentary going on, and I want to continue to hear from as many people as possible for the remainder of the duration of the time we actually have left. Tisa, thank you for joining. Jalen, what's going on, cuz? All right, another comment from the other day. Before you put your hands on my child, give me a courtesy call first, and then you can proceed to whoop that ass. Alright, so the only thing that apparently the only thing I'm not gonna say who left the comment. I ain't gonna call them out, but the only thing that I think the only thing most parents are looking for is that respect and that courtesy to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And it's about talking about it first. Obviously, if they give you the go ahead to physically put hands on their kid, then by all means you can go ahead and do that. But I think for the most part, it's about that expectation being set, and so they're not blindsided. It's one thing when if you have the conversation and your child comes to you and says, "Hey, Mr. Da 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 did this to me." You already know that you've had that talk, you've had that conversation, and there's really not a whole heck of a lot to talk about. But if that conversation has never been had, then you got a completely different situation on your hands. And a lot of us can be extremely temperamental. A lot of us can actually lose our temper, and there are really a lot of ramifications behind that. There are a lot of things that actually can go wrong. Mine must be going slow. What you said?
So she said, my older sister is a half sister, although we never used the word. My dad was never allowed to spank her. My mom was the only person that disciplined her, and as a child that seemed unfair, very unfair. But I get it. Her reason was that sometimes a step-parent doesn't have that love in disciplining somebody else's child. That's basically what you said. She wasn't disciplined less than us, just only by my mom. My dad didn't have a problem with it. That's grown-up shit.
Yeah. That's a really great comment, Francilla, and thank you so much for sharing. And it can seem unfair, because if I'm a step parent, and I would want the situation to seem as fair as possible. I wouldn't want there to be any doubt in my daughter's mind or my stepchild's mind that there's any type of favoritism going on. I'm going to treat them and love them just like my own. But you want to make sure that they don't think that there's any type of favoritism going on. All right, Pee Wee, where I get that shirt from? Appreciate it, little cuz. I gave you a plug earlier. Like I said, I'm not going to charge you for it. This one's on the house, but
Oh, it says
Adale. Allendale. Yeah, man, come on, man.
I thought it said Adele. I was about to say, man, come on.
I mean, like them really walk around with an Adele shirt on?
Maybe you went to the concert.
Wow. I mean, I would, but
okay, I get it now.
you slow, bro.
Yeah.
All right, Tina says if someone else needs to whoop your kid's ass, then you need your ass beat.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that, Tina. And that's why I'm under this whole guise that no one's gonna love my child like I do, and that's why I think the discipline starts from birth onward. So hopefully by the time the step parent even comes into the picture, you've laid the foundation and there won't be any problem whatsoever. Like, I don't worry about Zoe at all. Like, she's a very respectful, very mannerable kid. But she's still mischievous. She still gets into things. So I know it's never going to be anything drastic that she does. And if she does anything, that's unlike her, then I'm going to start asking completely different questions. I'm going to find out what's going on. But again, that foundation is laid early on. Yeah, hey, I got somebody else who agrees with me. JB says, giving the other parent the respect is key because each scenario is different. Exactly. I mean, there are going to be there are a lot of variables that go on. There are a lot of things that can happen. It's Murphy's law. If anything can go wrong, it will. You know, and kids are gonna act up. There are gonna be times when you, as a step parent, have to step up and discipline, your stepchild. But again, I don't think that the first, step to that, or the first thought that comes into your head should be, well, they need their ass whooped. Right? Yeah, right. There are levels to it. If it's mischief, I get it. But even if it's something extreme, I think that foundation needs to be laid out so that there is no miscommunication. The first time that you, the step parent and the biological parent, have any conversation about the methods or form of the methods or the form of discipline shouldn't be after it happened. It should be way beforehand. You want to be proactive and not reactive.
That's the word I was looking for, proactive.
I'm on it. All right, so again, guys, this was extremely great dialogue. I really appreciate everybody's comments. Really appreciate everybody for chiming in, and and really I appreciate those of you who shared your personal experiences, because I know that it's hard. It can be hard, to let people into your everyday life. So I really appreciate that. But again, this is a great dialogue. But again, the dialogue does not have to stop here. So continue commenting, continue sharing the post, continue liking it, letting us know exactly how you feel about it. And we'll see you again at 7 o'clock next week. Thank you.